Hello and welcome to the third episode of the Nympho Ninjas podcast. As always, I am your host. You can call me Ninja. I like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good night, depending on whenever you have the time to listen. We've got a great show for you today. I have two separate interviews to share, both recorded during my visit to Brooklyn, New York. Firstly, I just want to apologize to my guests, Cam, Vex, and Owen. I did these interviews about 2 months ago, and it's taken me way too long to sit down and put them together and record the intro to share with all of you. I'm so sorry for them for making them wait to hear it again, to share it, and sorry to all of the Ninja followers waiting to hear a new episode. I think it's been about a year since I released the second one. I have a lot of fun doing it. I really love the interview process, but sitting down and putting it together and doing the part where I talk alone, I don't enjoy it as much, but I hope to get more used to it. I'd like it to be a regular thing. I'd love to make a monthly podcast or something like that. So, let me know what you think. If you like the show, you want to hear more. Encouragement inspires me, and it'll hopefully motivate me to do more. I interviewed Cam Damage, Owen Gray, and Vex. The first interview here is just with Vex. I met up with her in her apartment that she had rented in Brooklyn. It was a very quick interview. I was late to catch the bus to meet Cam. We were catching a bus together, so I was very rushed with Vex to try to get to that bus on time. So sorry about the rushness of the interview. I ended up missing the bus I was supposed to catch with Cam, so we had to catch a later bus. In hindsight, it would have been nice to just plan a later day and get to really sit down with Vex. She's an amazing girl, really inspiring, makes beautiful work, and a really great energy. So it was nice to sit down and talk to her one-on-one, but I feel like we could have had a whole hour long interview at least about all the things she's done and all the things she wants to do and where her ideas come from, and I would have really liked to dive in a bit more. But so there's a little interview with Vex, and then the four of us all sat down and just talked about kind of sex culture, things that we've noticed, things we enjoy, the questions that we get, and then we talk about relationships. I think it was very interesting to me. All three of them come from a very different background and have very different relationships than I have ever found myself in. But I thought it was very inspirational. They're all in open relationships, but varying different kinds of open relationships. And I know I get a lot of questions about relationships and polygamy on my blog, and with very little experience. I'm not necessarily the best person to go to, but I think if you listen to this, you'll definitely learn a few things about how to make it work and what kinds of relationships can work. I'm gonna rush through quickly today because we've got an hour and a half of interviews for you to listen to, so I don't want to take up too much time. But I wanted to also give some basic submission advice. I get a lot of questions about how to submit, and I don't usually respond with real answers because I feel like if you can't figure out how to submit on Tumblr, you're not on Tumblr. You're not really using it properly. It's all very easy. I think it's all fairly obvious, especially on the site. There is a submit button right there. But if you don't know, nymphoninjas.net/submit is where you have to go if you want to email your submission, and it's to nymphoninjas@gmail.com. And for your photos, every Monday, our inbox has a few, maybe two, maybe more, maybe a dozen of people upset about their photos not being included. And of course, we always apologize, saying, we wish we could share everybody's. We don't always have the time. But sometimes the photo is not the kind of quality we like to share. My goal for Nympho Ninjas is to have all the photos posted, whether it be Submission Sunday or throughout the week when I'm reblogging other photos, is I want them to all look like they come from the same camera. or at least from the same photographer. So some photos that don't have that kind of style, don't have that kind of feel, we just don't share. So I've come up with some 5 basic things that I can advise you with that will help you create your submissions, and you'll have better chance of getting posted. The first one is lighting, an incredibly important thing. If you don't have any kind of lights besides your overhead light in your room, go to Value Village, go to a shop, go to someplace and buy a lamp. Get a 30 to 60 watt bulb. Dim light is best, and you want something that you can move, something that you can play with. Overhead lighting is definitely not ideal. It's not very flattering to be lit from head down. It looks much more nicer with shadows if you're lit from the side, so that's why I really suggest getting a lamp. An alternative to that is, of course, window light. If you've checked out Submission Sunday before, I'm sure you've noticed we get a lot of beautiful submissions that are ninjas just posing in front of their window. And that's a clear example of why side lighting works and why sunlight works best. Lamps can work great too, but again, it's about having them beside you or at the side of the room instead of using your overhead light. An obvious rule I say a lot is no flash. Flash photography drives me crazy. I feel like there's no need for it. So please don't use flash. And you really got to consider the framing of the photo. We're not just looking for, a close-up body part. We want to see a beautiful picture. So if you, see what part of your body fits into the frame and what part of the body is out, that's all very important. I know Trouble, she really wants me to emphasize that she likes to see that you've also put effort into where the photo is. So if it's in your room, you don't see, your dirty laundry and your dishes from the night before in the background. The little effort like that to, clean up the space, make it look comfortable, make it look like you're relaxed, make it look like you've put in that little bit of effort to make a nice photo. Number 3, don't hold the camera. This is one that there are exceptions. Sometimes we do find nice photos where the person is obviously holding the camera, but most of the time we don't like to see that. Ideally, you'll set up the camera. If you're just using your iPhone or something basic and you can't get a tripod, it's very easy to still just lean it to set it up so you can pose in front of it. If you do have a camera, we suggest getting a basic tripod. Then you can adjust the height, and it creates more creativity. You've got more options to deal with instead of just always putting it on the same chair or whatever you've been doing. A tripod, they're fairly cheap, and if you're getting into photography, investing into it is a good idea. And again, I've answered this question before on the blog, but just to reiterate, if you are using an iPhone or a cell phone or any kind of point and shoot camera, or any camera really, the best way to capture your submission isn't necessarily by trying to take a still. We find that shooting video works best, and then you can sit back afterwards and watch that video and then pick your favorite frame. Instead of trying to catch something in one moment chance, you're maybe recording a minute, and then you can sit back and pick your favorite second, or your favorite moment from your little session. 4 is a big one. No Photoshop filters, no blurs. So we don't want to see a photo that's obviously been altered. We want it to look as natural as possible. We don't mind a little desaturation. Black and white can be really nice, but we don't want to see any weird colors. Just regular looking photos is preferred. And also no watermarks. I know a lot of you and a lot of people worry about their photos being stolen and the credit being taken, and yes, that happens. It happens on Tumblr all the time. It's something that I feel like you just have to accept, and hope that the Tumblr community will recognize your work and will re-put the credit on if somebody takes it away. but it's not worth ruining the photo by putting a watermark on. If it's a good photo, let it be a good photo. Also, we want to keep, I know a lot of ninjas enjoy sharing their write-ups, and we get a lot of really great ones, but some of them are quite long. And on a Sunday, when we've got hundreds of photos to go through, 100 photos to go through, and your write-up is, 5 paragraphs long, it's going to take us a lot longer to get to it. And when we do get through it, it's also harder for us to reply. So we like, a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, a few sentences. Keep it short, keep it sweet. Let us know what inspired you. Let us know what you're feeling. Let us know how you feel about the photo. But yeah, we don't need, a whole essay. It's great if you want to write. I totally encourage that. But, for Submission Sunday, we like to keep it, a paragraph or 2 at the most. And remember, photography should be fun. If you're taking photos for Submission Sunday, we want you to be doing it regardless if it's going to get up or not. If you want to be practicing photography, you've got to be, working on it. One of the best advice I ever received while I was at art school was one of my professors let me know that not everything that I make is necessarily worth sharing or going to be great. You've got to make, I think he said, you've got to make 50 paintings to get 5 good ones. You've got to take 1,000 photos to get 10 good ones. So the more that you practice, the better that you'll be. And the more work that you create, you'll have a better choices. You'll have better selections to choose the strongest pieces, the ones that you like the best, and those are the ones that you'll submit or put on your own blog. It's not just about Submission Sunday. If you want to get into photography, if you're interested in taking self-portraits or portraits of you and your partner, then do it for the fun of it. And if you really love it, please share it. But, we would encourage you to do it regardless. And I think that's the gist of it. 5 solid little bits of information that, can help you with your submissions. Again, your lighting, your framing, setting up the camera instead of just holding it. Don't bother photoshopping it too much. A little bit of alteration is fine, but don't watermark it. And keep your write-ups, short and sweet. So this episode of the podcast, episode 3, is brought to you by our brand new Nympho Ninjas app, which I'm really excited to have. I've been a fan of Me and My Place for years. I remember seeing it when it was just a Tumblr blog before it kind of blew up to what it is today. And so being asked to be a part of the family of photographers and models, really warmed my heart. And I know Trouble is really happy to be a part of it too. So we've got a brand new app. You can get to it at nymphoninjas.findrow.com. And the way it works is you pay an amount. You can do it for a month, you can do it for 6 months, or you can do it for a year. And of course, it gets cheaper as you go up. And once you get the app, you get an app on your phone that gives you exclusive ninja content that you don't get on Tumblr. So now, the more photo shoots me and Trouble are doing, and even from some of our videos from the past, we put up some of the stuff that we like onto Tumblr, but we're saving a lot more of it for the app to thank everyone who purchases that. So if you'd like to get the app, again, it's nymphoninjas.findrow.com. And if you're listening to this, we're going to give you 15% off your subscription fee if you use the coupon code episode3. 15% off, coupon code episode3, the number 3, EPISODE, the number 3. This offer is good for 1 week. So I'm hopefully going to release this on Sunday, so the following Sunday, the coupon will be done. So, act early. It's a cheap way, an easy way to show your support, and plus you get a lot of beautiful photos. The photo shoot me and Trouble did in Montreal last week, the ones we posted on Tumblr just scraped the surface. We maybe put up 10, there is 70 photos that I'm really proud of on this app, and I'd love you to see. So check it out. And now, with no further ado, we'll get on with the episode. First will be the interview with Vex. I'm sure I'll introduce it again, and you'll probably be tired of hearing my voice by the end of this, but thank you so much for listening. And here we go. Test. Fusion boy.
Test.
Perfect. Okay, I'm here in Brooklyn with Vex, all the way from Leeds, England. And today we're going to be talking about her experience as a cam girl, and things like that. Firstly, of course, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. Really nice to talk to you. I'm excited to learn more about you. Good morning as well. Firstly, I'm really curious what inspired you. Did you have someone in your circle that had the experience with camming? Did you learn on your own?
It basically started when it's just a truck going past. I started modelling for a website called God's Girls, which is kind of a suicide girlsy kind of based, very softcore old modelling site. And loads of the girls on there were working for kind of My Free Camps and a couple of other campsites. But what was interesting for me was I'd kind of always presumed that stuff was kind of very generic and like controlled by like an evil porn corporation, and what they showed me was that actually it was like running an independent business, and the girls had like amazing personalities which they were showing on cam, and kind of making it about them, making it personal, like something that wasn't just like faceless kind of sex machine thing. And it kind of interested me because I love performing. I like being on camera, and I like interacting with people rather than just sort of sitting behind a screen. So it was something that I was interested in, but quite scared to do, I think. So
did you have friends in your like that you knew, or just online people that you were communicating?
No, it was basically like pretty much everyone was from the US. Like I didn't really know any British girls that cammed at all, or even no one in my circle was even doing anything kind of naked or getting involved in any kind of the things that I was interested in. So it was a really big leap for me to kind of to start. I started on a website basically that was like a British website that it was a smaller campsite because I didn't want to compete with like the other girls. It was really fetish based and kind of like a baptism of fire, because it was pretty weird at times, like the kind of requests that I'd get and the things that the guys wanted me to do was so different to the kind of camming that I'm doing at the moment. So I feel like I had good experience from that. That means that it sort of stood me in good stead to be prepared for the kind of weird stuff that comes your way when you're camming.
For sure. And how long have you been performing?
Working on the site that I'm working on at the moment, I've probably been, it's been a year and a bit now, but camming overall, I kind of started just doing it maybe a couple of times a week, and now it's my full-time job since I left university. So I'd say probably about 2 years now, on and off.
And how long from when you started did it take you to kind of tell your friends, to tell your family?
I think when I started, some of my friends knew that I was doing this modelling website with God's Girls, but I kind of didn't tell them about camming, mostly because it was pretty weird. But I think like after I left university, like a bunch of the friends who I knew I wasn't going to see again maybe moved away, and then and now my group, my friendship group is much closer, so I share everything with them. I'm kind of pretty much out about all of my sex work to like my immediate circle and my family, but I don't really broadcast it either. Like I still like to keep a little bit of a boundary between my personal life and my professional life.
Yeah, that's good. But has the reactions all been positive, or any friends kind of taken aback? Anyone really shocked, surprised?
It's interesting because like I would have expected that would have been the case. Like I think the only thing that I mean, everyone has been so positive. Like, I'm so lucky. I have really supportive and understanding friends, and I've never had any kind of like stigma, and my family as well. Like, I've had great experiences, and I'm very lucky because definitely not everyone is in that position. But the only thing that frustrates me sometimes is I think people sort of say like, they try and like legitimize what I'm doing by saying, oh well, at least you're not doing this thing, or like, oh, you know, it's okay because you're like really kind of tasteful or creative with it, so it makes it okay. And it's hard to explain to people that what I do is okay, but what everyone else wants to do is okay too. Because I think for them it's just a way of them feeling more comfortable about something they don't understand. But it's kind of a damaging attitude to have, because there are certainly girls. I mean, there are girls on the cam site that I work on that literally take like fists and like double fists and like these insane dildos. And it is kind of shocking if that's something that's not your experience, but you also have to kind of trust that somebody is in control of their actions and their body and stuff like that.
And so now, do you have like kind of a circle of cam girl friends like in Leeds or in England that you're able to communicate with, or is it still kind of an international online circle?
It's probably mostly international. I'm really lucky actually that there are a couple of girls who, it's a friend of one of my good friends, Kiff. She doesn't really cam anymore, but she lives in the same city as me, and like we get to hang out all the time. And when she was camming, we used to come do shows together. And we have, the great thing about the UK is you can pretty much get anywhere within like 2 or 3 hours. So it's not quite as spread out as the US. So actually, like a lot of the girls that I know that are UK girls, we kind of get together and we hang out. Like we have like little meetups, and like we go to museums, and like it's really the most helpful thing about kind of doing sex work is like the amazing community of people that it brings you into contact with, and how uniting it is for people. I think sometimes camming can be maybe the opposite, because you work from home, you don't see anyone else, you essentially it's just you. So to have other people with the same experiences that you can talk to is so important. And actually, like, sometimes you feel like you're going insane if you have a problem and you don't know what to do about it. Talking to other cam girls is like the most important thing, I think.
Yeah, that would make sense. So, and before camming, you mentioned your love of performing. Did you do kind of theater, performance art?
I was actually, like, surprising that you say that. I was like in like a youth theatre when I was younger. Like I was like, I don't know, I wanted to be an actress. I definitely think it's a big part of that. That's definitely a reason why I enjoy what I do so much. Acting and performing and stuff like that, it feels incredibly kind of liberating, and I love the kind of I love kind of taking on like a persona or a character, and camming is becoming more and more real me, but it's still something that I'm aware that I like to play with it. I like to kind of sort of measure people's reactions and kind of do something different with it, I think, maybe than my real personality. I think I'm actually slightly quieter in real life than I am on cam, which is surprising because I'm not quiet at all. But you kind of have to ramp everything up to keep sort of people's interest and people's focus and stuff like that.
But so do you feel like on camera you're more performing as like a character version of yourself, or it's just an extension of yourself?
It's definitely, when I started, I thought that like I had to be sexy all the time. I thought that camming was about like, I even had like a different voice. I think my voice has changed since I've been on cam. I think it's just like the idea that I think I just maybe I was less goofy, and I was definitely more serious and like tried to be just really sexy all the time. And actually, the more I give of myself, the more
people like the personality.
People like the person, and like people respond to that.
Care about you and the girl, and it's not just about so much like the sex every time. It's about getting to know someone.
So much of camming in a big room of people is about creating an atmosphere that people want to be a part of. And like that's, I mean, I love being a part of the atmosphere in my room too, and I have fun, and I want to kind of convey that to somebody else. I think one of the nicest things about camming is if you look like you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself and you're doing something that makes you happy and that makes you fulfilled, other people enjoy watching that. Like other people want to be a part of that.
So I was out for drinks with one of my best friends in the city last night, and she was kind of asking me about camming, and she's starting to be curious about wanting to do something like that. So for anyone interested in wanting to start, do you have any advice?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could write an essay about it. I think it's really interesting. Definitely focus on the social side of it as much as the sexual side. Think really hard about your limits and what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and don't compromise that for anyone, even if you feel like somebody's putting pressure on you.
Right.
You have to keep a boundary between what's personal and what's professional. Don't, protect yourself. Don't kind of give away too many of your personal details, and don't let people kind of have a monopoly on that or feel entitled to those things, because they're yours and you have to look after them. But that kind of sounds scary, but really, genuinely, just have loads of fun and do what you love. Like, don't go in there expecting to make so much money straight off the bat, because it takes a while to build that kind of stuff up. I think some girls think that you can just kind of, if they do one day, they're like, where's my money?
Yeah.
Make friends with other cam girls and watch other cam girls and see what they do and learn from them. Don't rip them off, but like take things that you see and manipulate them into something interesting you can do in your room, and make it about you. Like, don't be afraid to be yourself and take things about yourself that you think are interesting and share them with people, because people want a personal experience.
Yeah. That's great advice.
Oh, and drink loads of water. Like, always drink loads of water. I never remember to, like, you're always like, fuck, I'm so thirsty. Like, you can't just, like, go downstairs or whatever. Oh, yeah, and don't be afraid to say that you're going to go pee as well, because some girls are like, excuse me, I'm just going to nip out for a bit. I'm like, you're going to go pee, it's fine. We all do it. It's not a problem.
And besides camming, you're also a part of Four Chambers. And so how has the experience been with actual making, like, artistic videos instead of just live?
It's a totally different process. Like, Four Chambers is my kind of creative outlet. Since I finished art school, I knew I didn't want to be a professional artist, but I've always made work, and it's always been something that's been really important in my life. And I think, like, I'm just, like, so overjoyed that I've managed to kind of amalgamate these two kind of aspects of my life that I take so much pleasure from. Mm-hmm. Making videos is, sometimes a very easy process, but sometimes I just have, like, a little spark of an idea and then we just mess around with something. But the more it's gone on and the more kind of momentum it's built, like, it's like such a draining process. Like, we spend so much time, like, theorizing about what we want to do, planning shots, like testing the lighting out, like coming halfway across the world to meet people to work with. Yeah. So for me, like, I want to funnel the kind of resources that I make through camming into making something creative. So the best thing about camming is it's enabled me to have the time and the space and the money to make things that I'm really proud of, and like really further, like, my skills creatively as well. So
what's kind of like your vision for the future of Four Chambers? If you have, like, upcoming projects you're excited about?
I'm really excited about everything that worked together on in New York, and we have a new video that we shot in Paris that we're actually editing with some other people as well. So it's kind of been really interesting to be kind of trying to collaborate, which is something that we hadn't done before. But I don't really know where we're going to go with it, because I don't want to make it into a business. I'm really keen to have it as something that exists outside of making profit. So it's basically something that I want to do for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And I want to get better, and I want to work with different people, and I want to kind of I want more people to see it and more people to be a part of it, and sort of change maybe the way people see kind of business in porn, because I want to separate it from that very much. I want it to be more about, like, a collective of like-minded people rather than, like, a money-making machine.
Right. And you're not always in front of the camera with Four Chambers. You've also acted as the director, so having performers, that you're in charge of telling what to do. How is that experience?
I don't know, it's interesting because I know like you shoot yourself a lot as well, so I mean I would love to step away from the camera a little bit more, because actually I love being the kind of like the force behind it rather than necessarily. It's actually so much harder to direct when you're kind of like trying to get into something, especially if it's like a full-on sex scene. Is like almost impossible to kind of break off halfway through and be like, I think maybe we change the lighting from here to here.
Sure.
Or
have you like directed any full sex scenes that you weren't a part of?
no, you know what? I would love to. Like there are people in mind that I would love to work with, but actually, it's a big deal to be in front of the camera and to have people to give up the control of shooting something to you. I imagine you experience the same thing where you're so used to working yourself, it's kind of scary to let somebody else do that. So, and actually there are lots of people that are kind of interested in working with us, but actually like full sex scenes is pornography, it's like a big step, and I totally respect that that's something that not everyone's prepared to commit to right away. So I mean, if the opportunity arose with the right people at the right time, absolutely, I think that would be really interesting.
That's sweet. Do you want to talk a little bit about the projects that you did shoot while you were in New York?
Yeah, sure. Like, we worked again with a performer called Owen Gray, who you've already interviewed for a different podcast. You know him very well. Who was that was my first boy-girl scene last year when we were in San Francisco, and we kind of
just missed each other last year. I remember,
we missed each other.
Two after you.
It is interesting that we were like little passing ships in the night.
Yeah.
But we managed to make it this time, just obviously today.
Yeah.
But it was that's been a really interesting experience to work with somebody again and try and do something different, because we were really keen not to just repeat ourselves. So we kind of were wanting to kind of control the lighting a lot more and create a completely different mood.
Shooting it different too.
Yeah. Like we've just bought a new camera, which means that we're going to have the opportunity to kind of work in a slightly different way that we've worked before. So hopefully that's going to look really good. And you were here when we were shooting with Cam. Cam's an amazing model, and
she's incredible. Yeah.
How does she's just...
I just remember the first time she came to visit me last year, and she's like, oh yeah, we can just do like a simple little photo shoot, and I set up my projector.
Yeah.
And she was just like doing her modeling, and every time my shutter would go, she'd strike a new pose.
Yeah.
It just like, I'd never seen anyone do that before.
Yeah,
and it just like blew my mind how much control and how much knowledge she had about how to make her present herself. Yeah,
I'm not a model. I find it actually, I do find it really difficult, but watching somebody with so much skill work, it's such a difficult job. Like, I have no idea how she's so skilled in that way. But filming her was the same. It was just like, she just nails it every time straight away. And she has great energy. She's really able to kind of, she works like with her whole body. And so, actually the reason why I often don't step away from the camera is because I worry that I don't want to make somebody do something that I'm not prepared to do myself. So I'm like, I'm going to be right in here filming with you. Or sometimes we do dumb stuff like, I'm going to pour this thing on you, or we're going to, cover you in pomegranate juice. Or
it was so much fun, just like all being naked, running around, like trading ideas and brainstorming together. I've never done anything like that.
How did you find it? Was it something that was interesting for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, I'm always usually behind the camera, and if I'm not behind the camera, the camera's just on a tripod, and I'm in front of like a camera that I set up. So I pretty much always have control over what I'm a part of. So it was nice to kind of give that away and like, just trust the people and know that the photos would be taken nicely. And the four of us posing together was so much fun and all of that. It's definitely something that I'm interested in doing more of.
It's like I think there's something that I really value about like just being with people and being naked and just making kind of creative stuff and just working with interesting people is like such a blessing.
Absolutely, just like having the freedom to be able to be naked and comfortable with friends, especially friends that you're just meeting for
we just met like the day before
time.
We're like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
it's funny because like I think in situations like that, it obviously depends on the people, but it's just important just to do it and realize that it doesn't, you know, like kind of what we were saying when we were recording for the other podcast about how actually like sex and sexuality is so varied, like, and but then just because you're naked doesn't mean sex always. It's like you can manipulate it in a bunch of different ways, and actually like nudity for me is really kind of makes me feel close to people. Like there's nothing like just shooting with people and just hanging out and like lying on them and feeling like makes you feel really close to people
and comfortable with yourself and encouraging everyone else to feel comfortable.
Absolutely, yeah.
So back with the Cam and Owen video, I'm really curious about how the pomegranate idea came to be.
I think for me, I like to work with symbolism. Like I think symbolism is so sexy to me. I often think that like having something as a stand-in for something that might be kind of sexual is even sometimes more sexual. It kind of hides something which allows your imagination to kind of run free. So I've always liked fruit, and like I love liquids and dripping and anything. It has like a really strong symbolism for me of kind of, and fruit is like fertility and kind of it sits somewhere as like a timeless kind of, and we were shooting and Cam and Owen just looked like a religious painting.
Absolutely, I got some stills of it and I was admiring them. It looked so beautiful. It was such a great idea. It's like something so simple but so clever. Yeah,
I kind of like things that maybe sit somewhere. And when I was kind of thinking about, hopefully this comes across in a much less kind of cheesy way than maybe this sounds, but like the idea of like Persephone, like there's like the myth of the girl that was stolen by Hades, like to go down into hell, and like she was going to be allowed to leave if she didn't eat anything. She ate like 3 pomegranate seeds, and so she became like, that's why supposedly the Greeks thought we had like summer and winter, because winter is when she goes back down to live with Hades for 6 months a year and becomes like the queen of darkness or whatever. It's just, so it's kind of I would never want to do anything that was as descriptive as that, but I like the idea of referencing certain things like that. Is interesting to me. And like I said, Cam and Owen just look like mythological creatures anyway.
So I would love to sit here and have a 3-hour interview, but sadly I am very rushed today, so I've got to cut things short. But
sorry.
Before we do that, do you want to just tell everyone where they can find these videos when they'll be available, where they can find you when they want to follow you?
4 Chambers, it can be found at a4chamberedheart.com, and also 4chambers.tumblr.com, and on Twitter we're 4chambered. And I'm Vex, which is I cam on Chatterbait under Ashley Vex, and my Twitter is Ovex, and my Tumblr is Ovex, and my Instagram is Vex too. So there are so many social media.
Is the best way to find out about when your chemtrails are just through Twitter? If you follow your Twitter, you usually...
I actually have another cam-based Twitter, which is Ovex with 3 X's, because I like to keep things separate. I don't just want to bore everyone with like online.
And so that's the one where to find out about when you'll
be on. Me, yeah, that's when I'm on cam. But I'm pretty cross social media, so if you discover me somewhere, you can generally find everything else.
I've been following you for a long while now, and I've only ever been able to catch your show like twice.
Oh, really?
I'm sure the time difference affects that.
Yeah, I think like, I don't really cam at like great times for people on the East Coast. The East, what is your time zone? EST?
East, yeah.
Oh, okay. So, but also, I also hate people like that just tweet all the time, like, I'm online, I'm going online in 15 minutes. Yeah. So I actually, probably to the detriment of my own business, I'm like, I just go on and people will find me that way.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Especially giving the talk about camming and your experience and some ideas and pointers for people who want to start. I know it's a booming industry that a lot of people are curious about.
Hopefully we'll see you guys on cam one time.
Yeah, if possibly. Hopefully.
I'm here in New York, and I've got 3 very special guests that will introduce themselves.
I'm Vex. We all just pointed at each other then. I'm Vex. I shoot like kind of erotica and porn with 4 Chambers, and I'm a full-time cam girl.
I am Cam Damage, and I am a model of various types. Mainly, I just run around naked.
My name is Owen Gray, and I'm a porn performer that works primarily in BDSM porn.
Today we're here to talk about sex culture, things we like, things we don't like, what we think is going on, what can be improved, things we would criticize. I guess the first topic I'm interested in everyone's opinion is due to a certain book bringing forth kind of kink into the main culture.
I think you could say 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, I didn't want to...
50 Shades of bullshit.
Yeah, I try not to give things that have attention any more attention. But we're also all in kind of positions where people come to us for advice sometimes. So I feel like this would be a good way to kind of vocalize it instead of having to write it out. Mm-hmm. I know I get a lot of questions from people wanting to be doms, wanting to be subs, and I thought we all come from a different kind of perspective on that. And it would be, I'm very interested in hearing what everybody would have to say regarding, that sort of trend that's happening right now. Whether you think it will be like a flash in the pan, or it's going to stay prominent in people's sex lives, or everyone just wants to try it out and stuff like that.
I think you could kind of say the same thing happened like a tiny bit with like some of the early Madonna stuff in the 80s. Is it 80s?
In her sex book?
Yeah.
In the 90s, yeah.
Like with the that was like obviously leather bars and stuff featured quite heavily in that kind of, and so for a while that was really fashionable, like with maybe sort of new romantic stuff, but it did die out again afterwards, so it will kind of ebb and flow. I think like definitely the more kind of surface of it with the fashion.
I think the more commercialized production, the popularity of it will go up and down over time. But I think with the accessibility of information, now that people with genuine interest will maintain in the culture for a longer period of time now.
Yeah. I think it's had like both positive and negative effects, where it brings people out of the woodwork to like, well, I know in terms of 50 Shades of Grey specifically, it brought me out of the woodwork to be like defensive of dom-sub relationships, because that's not what is in that book. It's an abusive relationship in that book.
It's like misinformation.
Yeah, but
you feel like you have to
defend it.
Yeah.
But for that exact reason, also, it's bringing people out being like housewives being like, ooh, I'm gonna get tied up like by my husband, and then he'll leave me there and slap me. Yeah. That book's really. I tried to read some of it. It's really terrible.
Yeah, I've read a passage, and it's the worst written book.
I totally agree.
I haven't read it.
Oh.
Did you read any of it at all?
I know. I just know
rough.
that it's like about BDSM-ish relationship, but I don't know anything else.
It's also
about
just
it.
super problematic in terms of like even just like really kind of strange, like from what I hear about kind of the relationship between she's kind of fascinated with him because he's just rich, and that is apparently
and a dick. Like,
and a dick. He's just a horrible person. Like it's not even. There's not even any kind of. I don't even see how it can be romantic. It kind of goes back to the little Lolita thing where you're like, no, he's just a dick. Like you can't romanticize this relationship. It's like, no, he's a horrible person. And like this isn't a beautiful love story. This is a tragic tale.
It sounds more like somebody who had a misinformed idea of what BDSM is tried to write like a romantic story.
Yeah,
including it.
It's certainly that.
I tried to read it once, and like I got through maybe a couple paragraphs, and then flipped through to find like the sexy bits, but it distracted me so much. She'd always say that the guy was murmuring.
Yeah.
And I just thought that's like the least sexy way you could describe
and like
talking
when
at all.
He fingers her with his thumb. Like he's just like he slipped his thumb inside me. He did?
Wow.
Yeah, I just thought like murmuring is for
Yeah.
like kids in elementary school, like talking under their breath,
Yeah.
like bad about their teacher or something.
That's funny.
It's kind of cool in a way because I think anything that encourages a discussion about something that maybe people are unaware of, it gives an opportunity for them to become better educated about it. But obviously the issue with 50 Shades is that it's very much miseducation in the first place, so you're having to undo work that's maybe put in, and it has the potential to be dangerous to promote that kind of relationship. So
Well, what I've done with that is suggested reading to people that's actually like educational, or just even like there's a book called S&M 101 that's like a really good just like baseline educational one. And then in terms of like fiction, there's this trilogy called The Claiming of Sleeping Beauty. But if you guys haven't read it, you totally should. It's written by Anne Rice under a pen name. It's not like a dreamy, wistful story. Like it's like beauty gets like taken. So like this like whatever castle where they have slaves and stuff, but it's a very much more like dom sub power exchange like I don't know thing. So people listening, read Claiming Your Sleeping Beauty, book 1 for a fiction story. Yeah.
And what were you saying next time?
I think I was going to say that for me, like, I don't necessarily come from a point of view of like a great deal of like personal experience of like BDSM kind of relationships. So for me, it's just observing other things. But for me, one of the things that was kind of quite eye-opening when I first started understanding more about BDSM is like actually the idea of like the sub is actually in often the one with all the power. Like even though it doesn't necessarily seem like it, it's like. And that was kind of an interesting thing for me to understand, because in terms of like my own way I have a relationship with how I like the power play in my own sex life to go, I was like, oh, that makes sense, because I think like for people coming from the outside, it seems like a very one-sided exchange when it's definitely not. I'm sure you guys will be able to talk about that more.
A lot of people assume that the person that is dominant has the control just because they are quote unquote doing what they want, but in my perspective, a good top will really just be adjusting whatever they're doing, whatever output they're inflicting or engaging with the bottom according to what the bottom wants, because it's mostly an experience for what they're receiving.
Yeah, I for sure agree with that. The sub being in control and stuff. Like I get a lot of messages on Tumblr about like, you have an owner, like, well, isn't that sick? Why does this guy get to own you and stuff? And I'm like, he doesn't get to. First of all, he earned it, which is like a big deal to me to say like, no, it's not like this guy just came up and was like, I'm taking you. Like it isn't like that at all. Like
it goes both ways. It's a decision.
Yeah, and like I don't have a safe word or anything with my master. That's a big thing in a lot of other DS relationships, but that's because he knows so much about me after 4 years of being together that like he knows when it's enough. Like he can see like in me and stuff where my limits are and stuff, and it's all based around what I'm comfortable with. Like he would never do something to like harm me or anything. I think that's
It's crazy to think that some people don't understand and see it that way.
Yeah.
Like it just seems so obvious that the sub needs to be the one who's like setting the limits and getting what they want out of it, and the top is there to provide that, not to take from that.
Yeah. I also think people don't see it as a loving relationship. Like, or maybe it's not always for people. It could be that way, but like for me, it's very much about like being in love and stuff. Which obviously in scene play, like it is less about love, but there's like emotional exchange.
Yeah, when it's on video, it's just creating a commercial product like anything else. But I mean, in a real life situation, it is about having it encourages people to communicate, to have a better understanding of what each person wants, and to provide that for each other in a safe way. So it really encourages like more openness and more trust in the relationship.
I think that could be said of like all all sexual contact, really. Like it's about communicating in a like physical way as well as like in an emotional way, and just like like a BDSM relationship is maybe just a continuation of that to kind of like extremes that maybe extend past just the purely sexual. So it's just because that's something that I don't necessarily have a lot of experience with, but I can see like when you have a really intense kind of connection with somebody, it's about like reading how they're responding to what you're doing, and the more you know somebody, the better you are at that. And that's why I think like with something like a safe word, it's obviously a really important thing to build with somebody that you're just sort of starting to get to know, because maybe that you haven't got the kind of relationship that maybe you share with somebody. But
I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, regarding communication, it surprises me how many questions you'll get. This is referring to Ninja on your blog that are literally the answer is always communicate more.
Yeah,
like
how about you have a conversation?
Yeah,
about it?
like I don't even know. Like half of the questions you get, the answer is just like talk to them.
I get so many questions about open relationships and BDSM.
Yeah. How do I get this?
The majority of the
this?
answer, I elaborate and encourage people to do a lot of things, but the baseline is really communicate and talk about what you actually want, what you desire, what makes you happy, and so many people are terrified to do that.
It is difficult though. Like, I mean, I think like everyone probably has been in a relationship before where they spend a lot of time like either like looking after the other person, or you just want to do something that's comfortable rather than pushing it because it's for an easy life. But the most like liberating thing about having a really good relationship with somebody else is like being able to discuss things that maybe are difficult and actually realizing that it makes everything so much better, and then every time you do it, it gets better and better and better.
Allowing yourself to be more vulnerable in the relationship and opening up will really only make you feel closer and have a stronger connection with them, because you're able to go to those depths.
It seems like some people think there's like some secretive like sideways or roundabout way to get to what they want, but really it's just you've got to take the direct route. You've got to communicate. You have to explain what you want in order to get that, and figure out what your partner wants too.
Being really clear about your needs, I think, is and being open to hearing somebody else's, and they don't always have to match up, has been a like big sort of thing for me. It's like just because you want, sometimes you will want different things from your partner, or maybe you enjoy something that person doesn't, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that like there's something wrong in the relationship. It just means that you have to talk about how you can both be fulfilled and happy at the same time. And that sometimes, you know, sometimes in an extreme case it means finding that with somebody else, but often it just means taking turns in looking after the other person, or opening your mind to something that maybe you considered initially to be something that was something you wouldn't enjoy actually turns out to be enjoyable because you're pleasing somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. With that, is there anything from all of our lives where we thought we wouldn't enjoy, and then after actually experiencing it, you realize that it was for you?
I think in terms of like my relationship, which is like a four-way polyamorous power exchange relationship, I mean, the spurring of all that was because I can say his name, Brad. Brad and I are both submissives. Like, we don't have a dominant bone in us and stuff. So we found these doms that like completed our little circle or whatever. And I honestly was worried at the beginning about seeing him interacting with another person. And I know he had the same fears about seeing me, like, you know, sucking another guy's dick in front of him or something like that. And we both, well, I know I really like seeing him interact with other people, even though I was afraid at the beginning. Now I'm just like, yep, this is for me.
Did it just take like one time? Or?
Yeah, literally watching him interact with his like mistress the one time, and I was just like, this is hot. So I learned that I just like, yeah, I'm totally comfortable with that, and I love to watch, and I like get such joy seeing him get pleasure in a thing that I can't give him in a way that I can't give him.
Because it's like you have the opportunity to facilitate that, which means that it's like so much a part of you as it is like a part of that interchange. It's like you get the gift of being able to kind of like be a part of that from the sidelines is still as much value as being a part of it in the actual action.
I mean, I'm still like over there, man. Still in it.
That was a thing for me too. I really had to realize, like, if you have a partner that has a fantasy that you as one person just can never fulfill because of whether it's your sex or you're only one person, you've got to kind of like let your ego down a bit
Yeah.
and allow your partner to, fulfill their fantasies.
Yeah. I know for me, when I was much younger, even though I was involved in BDSM but pretty much strictly in the way of receiving pain, I was really conflicted for a long time about inflicting pain on other people, and it made the idea of it made me really comfortable. And it was really just through the opportunity of meeting a few very special lovers that I think also because of the perspective of what I knew I got out of receiving pain, and because it just worked in that time with the person, that I grew to really, really enjoy inflicting pain on partners of mine in a sexual way.
Vex, was there anything that surprised you that you liked?
I think, for me, I kind of always, the stuff that I do that's possibly more sort of on the border of what people would consider kind of regular sex stuff is actually maybe, I possibly always thought that I knew that about myself, so sort of being an exhibitionist or enjoying being filmed or enjoying kind of pushing things in that way has kind of, I've always felt like that would be expected of me, but I always maybe considered myself slightly more submissive, never necessarily in a sense of but more from the sense of I enjoyed having the power as a submissive and having the power that somebody wanted me so badly that they wanted to in a forceful way. I kind of always knew that, but I never really allowed myself to be the person kind of being maybe more dominant or kind of taking care of what I wanted was something that I always felt wasn't interesting for me. I love pleasing other people. That's a massive turn on for me. It's very much when I'm turning somebody else on, that's where I get my power in a relationship. So actually being able to play with that more and take more control of it rather than just being really passive, that's been something that's I kind of always considered that wasn't something that turned me on, and actually I think it's awesome and it's getting serving myself a little bit actually has been and it's also fed into other things as well. So being able to be more clear about what I want and what I need in a relationship has only brought better things, and it allows you to both to open up, because if you feel comfortable sharing what you need, then somebody else feels that's a parameter that you've set. So that's been kind of interesting.
It's really interesting that the three of you all have very different open kind of relationships. So I'm curious, when did you yourself realize that was the relationship that you wanted and needed to feel satisfied?
I'll go first. I've actually always known, since I started having sex, that I was not built for monogamy. I never, anytime I had a boyfriend in, high school or anything like that, I would end up cheating on them in one way or another or something like that. I just never thought that I was, made to be monogamous. And then, I don't know. Then I actually didn't know about power exchange relationships until I met my master, which was 4 years ago now. We just had our anniversary. And then when I met him, it kind of all, the pieces all fell into place that I was oh, I'm not monogamous. I, need these two different aspects of my sexuality fulfilled, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then Brad also came around to that same exact, oh, I also, have these two sides that I need fulfilled, and I, can't do the dom thing for him. So I think that's where everyone in our little four-way thing just accepted, this is right, this is how we're supposed to be, because we all have different sides of, what we need in our lives fulfilled and, working out for us and stuff, which is actually, we don't necessarily have an open relationship, because it's it's monogamous within the four of us, is how we're, operating it right now, which I used to think I wouldn't be able to do that. I used to be well, I'm always going to want to have sex with other people. And I obviously think about that still, but I'm a lot more content in the four-way thing that we have going.
So basically, from the beginning, You felt like
of my sexuality
exactly.
exploration. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've had a weird road through all of it.
Would you describe it as the same? Like as soon as you started dating, you realized that monogamous relationship wasn't going to work, or is something you discovered later?
I feel like I went through all of my earlier life just accepting relationships as being monogamous, and I didn't really question it because I just really wanted to be in a relationship. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older and was able to just feel content with myself and not being in a relationship all the time and not feel like I needed a relationship to be happy, that it allowed people to come into my life and for me to enjoy their company and intimacy and love and just appreciate them in my life, but not feel like I was depending on my relationship with them. And for my partner now, when we first met, she was married. She was married to somebody for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And it was just through time and their relationship separating that we became more serious. And we were actually monogamous for about a year, which was pretty solidifying for our relationship. But we always just considered it as like an open conversation, that we weren't going to decide what we wanted to do forever because
people change.
neither of us.
People's needs
change.
change.
People change, and so over time we just decided to open it back up, and it's always worked extremely easily for us, which I think both of us are really, really happy about.
That's awesome.
I think, like for me, a big part of it was realizing that actually, like, sex isn't necessarily like
Love.
Yeah, exactly. Sex is a tool that you can use in so many different ways, and it's something you should mold to whatever is appropriate and makes you happy. So obviously a sexual relationship is a connection and it's an intimacy, but emotionally you give as much as you want to give. And I think like realizing that I could separate that, and just because you did it didn't take away anything from the intimacy you share with the person, your primary partner. And in lots of ways it deepens it because you experience something together, and actually the conversation and the kind of the open conversation, like you mentioned, gives you some, like, an arsenal of weapons you can use to tackle other difficult issues. So I don't consider myself kind of emotionally I'm not really, what would you say, I'm not like poly or anything. I'm very happy, I'm secure in the relationship which I have, but I think in lots of ways it's this is the first relationship I've ever even considered anything like this with. So, and because we've been together for such a long time, it's totally changed from when we were first together. It was completely monogamous, and neither of us had ever even considered it the other way. But because of the kind of person that my partner is, he's kind of facilitated that because of how secure he is within himself. I'd never been with anyone before that had been able to kind of go, oh no, it's okay, and not be threatened and not feel, and that allowed me to go, oh wait, so it is okay, it was like, oh wow, this is amazing, okay, so like we're really close, but then it doesn't mean that like you're a terrible person if you think about other people, or not a terrible person if you have desires in a different way for somebody else. It's like it's something you can share with somebody rather than something that creates a divide. So I don't think anyone would pretend that it's an easy thing to do, because it goes against so much of what you're societally kind of
hardwired.
How you're supposed to live.
You're supposed to be jealous and stuff.
Yeah.
And in lots of ways it sounds silly, but in lots of ways it is kind of like an evolutionary thing.
You got it.
Yeah.
That was right.
It's kind of ingrained in us to want to feel jealous, because you're wanting to kind of band together as a group and like not share somebody that you feel like owns you.
Care about your partner.
Yeah, and you want to protect them and you want to protect yourself. But actually, in lots of ways, the most important thing is to realize that protecting somebody or being wanting the best for somebody doesn't necessarily mean trapping them or feeling like you own their feelings or feeling like they should feel a certain way because of like an old-fashioned kind of...
Yeah. Like yesterday I was talking to Ninja about my experience and my partner and I both sleeping with other people because we pretty much only do things with other people separately, and we have a lot of fun doing it and really appreciate the experiences that we're able to create with the people who we spend time with separately. But in every scenario when that happens, immediately after, both of us have a similar response in missing each other and wanting to be together, and almost as though our bond is just amplified in that moment because we care about our relationship and each other so much.
That's super emotional. Yeah.
But it does it kind of like doing something, just not doing something because you're worried it's difficult. That's only going to kind of lead to you sort of shutting yourself off as a person.
Yeah.
Often the things that are most difficult are the things that like blossom like the most kind of amazing like feelings of like love and closeness, because you shared something together that was hard and you've come through the other side, and actually and all of a sudden it seems like distant kind of past or something like that. So
it has to be really confirming to be able to like see, you know, the challenge and issue or something new in the relationship, and then get to experience it and then go beyond it and be like, oh wow, this does really work. And
even if it doesn't, like it doesn't, you know, you learn from every experience you have. And I think like a big part of being in a relationship is sharing interesting experiences with the other person and making them a part of it. I think the only thing I would find difficult would be people who have like a don't ask, don't tell policy, because
that wouldn't, I don't think that works, frankly, but
I mean, it's like, it seems like, it must seem like a really easy option if you're both like, oh, we'd like to like fuck other people, but we're worried about being jealous, so maybe it's better if we don't know. For me, like, all the information is so important, and knowing exactly where you stand is so important.
I think that would limit the couple's ability to be open with each other and other facets of the relationship, because they simply couldn't really acknowledge or talk about that side of themselves.
And that, like, withholding information builds up resentment extremely fast in relationships. So I don't know how people would operate that way.
It's also like okay to be jealous, like, as well. I think everyone in some point in a relationship feels that way, and it's like a feeling you can own and just accept that occasionally it will be like that for whatever reason. It can be, you know, it doesn't even have to be about sex, it can be about anything, but feeling like it's an okay feeling to feel, and like realizing that it doesn't own you, and that it doesn't, it's not a valid feeling always, like, it's fine. I think
the level of jealousy is the thing you've got to control, right? Like, I think it's good to feel a little bit jealous about people being interested in your partner, but I think it's also important to notice that, like, it's a compliment to you and your partner, and that it's not just you interested in each other. There's like the whole world out there that could be interested in you too.
There's a big thing in poly, can't think of the exact word now, I think it's fravel, or like fravel, I think it's fravel. That's like the anti-jealousy kind of, where you're just happy that your partner's happy, which is like a big foundation for me in like my polyamorous relationship. Like, as long as he's happy, then I'm like overjoyed.
Because you love the person in a way that it just makes you happy to know that they're experiencing happiness, regardless of it's with somebody else.
And I think, like, as well, I'm completely monogamous relationships, as long as you've had those conversations. Just because you feel like monogamy is for you doesn't mean that that's also, you're like not cool, or like you're old fashioned, or it's totally down to the relationship you're in. I think just having the conversation about it, and rather than just presuming that's the way because it's dictated to you by other things, like, you can still have a conversation about how everyone's feeling and decide that actually, oh wait, no, the thing that we're doing already is the thing that's appropriate for us.
Or be able to just simply acknowledge that you have desire outside of the relationship. Doesn't mean that you need to go outside of the relationship to feel satisfied, but may help you feel more understood and to what you want and what makes you feel good.
I think a lot of people feel like shame for even having thoughts that are outside of the relationship.
Certainly.
Yeah, I think like realizing that those are normal and okay.
That's like the thing where girls will get mad at their like boyfriend if he checks out a girl that walks by, and you're like, what, is he gonna go like run away with her? No, like he's looking at her ass. Look at it too.
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Because you're so hardwired, like to look at people and like, hey, like everyone is so beautiful. Like, why wouldn't you?
I stare at people constantly.
It's like sometimes it's not even.
Yeah, I find myself doing all the time. Like I'm just like, even if it's not necessarily an attraction, it could be like someone who completely isn't my type, and I'm just like, why am I even looking at her breast or ass right now?
Yeah, it's like, but they're
your
right
brain
there.
just like makes you do it.
I do that all the time with butts. Like I look at every butt, and they're not even good half the time. I'm
Right?
just like, just staring at that butt.
Apparently, like in general, like the way that the female, like obviously in general, eye kind of works is like butts is the only body part that women will actually check out, whereas guys is like guys look at like
Hips.
tits, hips, butts, and dicks. Like those are like the
I'll check out guy crotches.
yeah, just a casual, just
See what's going on. Good. So now you guys know.
honestly, like I think like a good like boner picture in clothes.
So much
like
better
the
than
hottest
Yeah, it's true. I don't know the photographer, but I did see them going around Tumblr a few weeks ago. I think
I know
was
exactly
it
what you're talking about.
from Vice or something? Someone
Someone did a whole like thing of pictures of hard-ons in underwear and like jeans and shit. And, like holy shit, yeah.
Hi.
That's where it's at.
yeah, no, definitely. And like that's a big thing too. People can realize is that it's not showing everything isn't always the sexiest thing. It's hinting towards it.
Yeah. A lot of times I find photos of girls in underwear more exciting than out of underwear.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that. Like one of the most sexual pictures I think I have, despite being constantly naked, is like one where I'm wearing a t-shirt and underwear. So I don't see myself naked as a sexual entity, like frankly anymore.
I think it says a lot about the power of the imagination. It's like that's what you get turned on by is by thinking about it. It's not necessarily seeing it.
I think like one of the major criticisms that's like levied at kind of commercial porn is like there's nothing left to the imagination. It's like super harsh lighting, like everything happens like even more than you could have ever imagined. It's all there, and it's like and it's like turned up to 11, and there isn't any room for like there isn't any room for kind of maybe that's a thing, or like I wonder if that happened later, or it becomes like, which if that's what you want to see, like absolutely, but there's room for so much more in the sphere of like sexual expression. Like you don't just have to have like just because it's suggestive doesn't mean that it's like lesser in any way. I think often it's actually the opposite effect. Like that's like something maybe with Four Chambers that I try and work with, because sometimes we shoot really explicit stuff, but then sometimes for me, like I like atmosphere more than I like explicitness. I like creating something that feels erotic and like feels sort of like it has a gap left for the potential for it to have gotten somewhere, but you cut it off before you give it to somebody.
It entices people's imagination to, I think, stimulate them in a way that gets them more involved in what they're watching rather than it just being so obvious.
Yeah,
it's true. In our beach video that we did, there was like one shot that was pretty explicit penetration. In the first edit, like we watched it through and like, like that one shot, was it a bit too much? And kind of talked about it, and then Trouble suggested that maybe like zooming in and panning beyond it, so you don't actually see the penetration. And then it became like one of my favorite shots. Where it just like pans across the sky, and you just see like the movement of our bodies together instead of actually showing everything.
A big part of like. I kind of think that also it's not necessary to just make a video that's intended for someone to jerk off to. It's like you can stimulate sexual thoughts in so many different ways. Like the porn that I would watch to masturbate to is not the porn that I make, but that's fine. And it's and actually I think it's good to treat it as something more than just jerk off material. Sometimes it's like it's a medium that has the potential to do so much more.
Yeah, like walking the lines between what's porn and what's art.
Yeah, I think like, yeah, it's almost like I sort of try not to necessarily say like art porn or anything, because I think like sometimes it's conceptual, sometimes I'm just doing it because it looks really good or it suggests a certain thing, or like, but I think the potential to create something that is interesting aesthetically and interesting atmospherically and suggestive and within the kind of genre of pornography is kind of something that's just really interesting to me. And I think what's kind of nice is it feels like it's riding a little bit of a wave of kind of almost like a little bit of a revolution in the way that people think about pornography and explicit kind of imagery and stuff like that, which feels kind of really exciting to be a part of a community of people that are kind of engaging with that argument. So
yeah, me too. It's like a revolution is kind of a really great way to explain it. I feel like there's kind of a changing of the guards almost going on, where like the mainstream, it's still going to be there, but like the underground stuff is kind of rising to the top, and people are realizing that okay, we don't need to just see this flash photography porn. It's actually nice to see a little bit of romance, and
people have the ability to create their own pornography. Really,
yeah, like with the price of good, decent video cameras coming down and like the internet, because you can distribute it yourself, and like you don't have to make it for a company, you can work for yourself. It's so like that was one of the main reasons why I decided to do it. Was I sort of saw people, I was like, oh wait, you can do that? Like why isn't everyone doing that? Like it seemed like how are people just cottoning on to how exciting this sort of the atmosphere of the kind of sex culture of today is. Like how has this not been around forever?
Yeah, I guess it's the perfect timing, right? With the accessibility of cameras and the ease of like editing and like just having the digital space to like upload videos and just share stuff like that. It's the perfect time for people to get involved with sharing their own sex and not rely on like whatever porn studio is making, right? To get on. And with that along, it's also like the language that mainstream porn has created is some people's their only idea of what sex is. And so when you're actually able to see real couples or just a different side of what sex is, it's like not every time you have sex, it doesn't always end in a facial, stuff like that. But some people, they're basically raised to think that that's how it is.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because there's obviously like a little bit of a movement with like Cindy Gallup's Make Love Not Porn at the moment, which is kind of that's kind of basically like, and her tagline is kind of like real sex versus porn sex, which is I completely kind of agree with the idea that actually kind of separating the idea that like people have to fuck a certain way because that's how they experience it through porn. I think it's a really valuable thing to do, and I think it's completely got incredible intentions, but also separating the idea that porn sex isn't real sex is also kind of, it's like if you do fuck like they fuck in porn, that's okay too. Like just because you can enjoy porn and fuck like porn and learn things from porn and do porn stuff, and as long as your partner is totally happy with it and whatever you're doing is totally consensual and safe, then go for it. Like don't.
And there are plenty of people who are in porn who actually are couples or actually have a great connection, and it shouldn't always be like invalid just because it's made by a mainstream porn company.
Yeah, true. I guess for me, I kind of thought like the difference between real world sex and like mainstream porn sex. I know a lot of it is like just the even positioning.
Yeah.
Like the guys need to be at a certain angle to really show that penetration.
Like you can't like eat pussy like in a sexy way in porn, like in a way that actually feels like really really good, because you can't. It would just look like the back of somebody's head. You have to get right in there. Like you can't like. But obviously, when you're doing it. Like when I'm camming with other girls and stuff, you kind of have to go in at like a
sideways
spread and like a tongue. Your tongue isn't really in the place, but it looks sideways. Great. Yeah, sideways. The sideways head and you have to push the leg even further than it wants to be.
It's also just ridiculous positions.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, there's like the one position where like the girls are butt up in the air and the guy's planking on top of her. Have you guys ever seen that? There's like so many gifs of that. And you're like, do people do this?
Yeah,
like, I don't know. Some of it's really silly, but
it looks good, and it's kind of interesting to. I think it's really important to show as many different forms of sexual expression, and it's nobody's job to tell anyone else that their particular chosen way of dealing with sex is invalid or wrong. But obviously we're in a kind of very strange culture where everyone's having sex and thinking about sex, but nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
So that's like going back to the 50 Shades of Grey thing. That's where the issue lies, is the lack of kind of open and frank discussion about it, which causes potentially difficult relationships.
I think a lot of people have just an idea that sex moves from like point A to point B and then it's done, and don't really allow the idea that you can stop during sex and do other things and kind of play around, and you don't have to have an orgasm. And just that it doesn't have to start and end in the same way.
Yeah. One thing that I once written on the blog that I saw afterwards really caught on with people, they said guys need to learn the importance of sex without their dicks. And at the time I said it, I didn't think that it would be a thing. And then I realized whatever time later that it had gained so many notes, and people were like, yes, exactly, that's it. And I guess to some people it's just kind of, I don't know, common knowledge, and to other people it's like, oh, what do you mean sex without your dick?
I wish you said that to people in college and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know my sex life forever, actually before Brad, was literally just, I thought I was obligated to have sex with these guys to get them off. And I did not orgasm from sex until I met Brad. Yeah. Which was how many people did I have sex with? It wasn't for me.
Did you fake it, or did you just not?
I just didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fake it either, so I would just be I'm glad you're done. That was pretty much it. So Brad was the first person that I could be open enough with to be well, this is about my orgasm too. That's and stuff. And
I think being able to also sex isn't penetration. Sex is so many other things. Sex is eye contact and basically kind of any interaction you have with somebody has the ability to be kind of sexual. So expanding people's idea of what sex can mean really kind of changes the way you think about it. So not racing just towards an orgasm. And I actually some of the best sex that I've had, I don't even come because like I said, a big part of my sexual gratification is feeling I've done a good job for somebody else. I think that's an amazing thing for me, and that's why
I think people need to see how rewarding it can be to give sexually without receiving.
Definitely.
That's where I get a lot of my satisfaction from.
Yeah, that definitely is a big thing that I think a lot of people should kind of take home and learn about, is that it's not always about self. Since you can go and jerk off if you want to get yourself off, but if you're gonna be having sex with somebody, you've got to think about that somebody.
I read on your blog that you haven't masturbated in a year or something, and I was you're what? You're no, buddy, sorry.
No, I love sex, but I love masturbating. Probably pretty much the same as I love sex.
And is it always watching porn?
The majority of the time, yeah, but not always. But it's just, and same with my girlfriend. She just enjoys masturbating, and there's times where, we'll just be at home and one of us will be like, I'm in the other room, masturbate, and we're like, okay. Or even we'll, have sex, and then she'll be like, oh, I want to masturbate again. And sometimes I'll stay with her and I'll play around with her too, and sometimes she'll be like, yeah, we can go in the other room. And I'll be like, okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a big... I love watching somebody else doing that. I think it's such a
Sure.
massive turn on.
Yeah, it's the best.
So the idea that I think people are awkward to touch themselves while somebody else is, it almost seems like that person's not enough for you, why would you need to? But you're the person that knows exactly how, and you can show somebody and they can learn from how you do it, and it's a really
Yeah, it can be so hard to encourage people to masturbate in front of you.
Yeah.
It kind of just, that's one thing I've like pressured my girlfriend into for a long time, and like bought her vibrators and toys, and was just like, I really want you to do this. And she finally was kind of like, okay. Yeah, and like her ability to orgasm and like feel pleasure, especially with another person, like completely changed over like the first 6 months of our relationship, probably.
Just you kind of like pushing her and encouraging.
Yeah.
Making someone feel like they're sexy when they do it is like so great as well. Like just watching somebody and like having somebody watching you and like feeling like somebody's enjoying what you're doing is like so awesome, because then it kind of, I don't know, when you do it during sex, you're like, oh, they really like this. So, yeah, awesome. I can like show off a little bit and sort of. But I think like there's sort of almost like, I think obviously recent sort of like this generation doesn't necessarily have the same kind of pressure as maybe past generations of people, like with the kind of idea that like, oh, girls don't masturbate, or I think that's, you know, for me, I don't surround myself with people that have that as an opinion, but
It's still like a bit of a myth that women can be sexual.
I used to be embarrassed about it.
It's changing, yeah.
I used to like never want to masturbate in front of anyone because I thought like, because you know when girls masturbate, you're like, wow, like really going at it.
Yeah, it's not just like a little.
It's not like how they do in porn, where they're just like, ooh, like a little circle. It's you jackhammer that thing. And I remember being like so embarrassed about that, and like the first time masturbating in front of Brad or something, just being like, can you not look down there? And him being like, no, like this is so hot and stuff, was like the most reaffirming thing that probably happened for my sexuality in a while. Like, so nowadays, like I don't even think about it when I do. I'm just like, yep. This is happening. Like,
yeah, it's definitely, I think it's the best way to learn about your partner, because everybody needs something different. Like we all reach our peak in, you know, a variety of ways, and you don't really know how to get there unless you see how they do it themselves, because we know our body's the best. Yeah, with the masturbation, I'm super curious about like how often does everybody else masturbate? Like, and has anyone else taken like a long break like I'm doing? Like,
yeah, kind of. Like right now, I'm kind of like sporadic with it. I used to be like, however many times a day I could, because I like totally love masturbating too. But I think I got my Hitachi and like burned myself out.
I'm gonna need to put that on ice for a while.
So I was like kind of am taking like right now is my like masturbation break, where I haven't been into it for the past like month or two probably. And like I will sometimes, but it's kind of just like, that was nice, I'm gonna take a nap now. Like it's not like where I used to be like, I'm gonna do this for like 2 hours. So I think I've reached my little like.
It goes in fluxes though. I think like everyone's sex life does that as well. It's like it's not like so sometimes because obviously like I'm a cam girl, so I masturbate for a living. Yeah. So actually like I don't really find a bunch of time out of it's like my day job. I'm like, oh, fucking hell, like I guess. Which is kind of what's awesome about having sex with somebody who wants to do things to you, or you can get to do things to somebody else, rather than at work where it's like I have to make it all about me.
It's kind of an act.
Yeah, no, it's a performance. It's absolutely a performance.
So do you find time in your life outside of work and outside of your partner to masturbate? Or is it,
I mean, like I'm at home on my own all day, and like if I've had a bad shift on cam, I'm and honestly, the Hitachi, like it's so easy. Why would you? Yeah, it's like I think for me, like a big part of having an orgasm alone is I'm a performer. Like I love performing, and I like so an orgasm by yourself is like a mental break from that. You're just like, I'm just sorting myself out. You like relax your face, you relax like your whole body. You just like completely let go. You're not, which is something that you can have with somebody else, but there's something really like fulfilling about having that experience. Just as like it's like exhaling. It's just like awesome. So.
Girls are so lucky with all of the like incredible toys they have. That's the
boys
whenever
can use
I walk.
too.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I think I
Brad does.
I'm terrified of it.
Brad loves it.
Not fun of
I've never done that.
vibrating thing.
Yeah, it's all a sensation thing. Like it's what you are into yourself, obviously. But
it looks so hot, like a cum shot, like
with that.
It just
crazy.
it is like it looks, but like I think male sex toys are kind of really just starting to take off, like all of the Tenga stuff, and
and with openness with men doing anal play.
Yeah,
That's
totally,
true.
which is totally changing.
I walked into the sex shops and like all the female toys are like on display in like little cases and like with their own lights and like presented as these amazing things. And the guys' toys are like, oh, they're in the corner over there. Like,
and they're always
next
like
to the
jock
jockstrap
stuff.
stuff.
It's like the ass grenade or something. Where it's like that's so scary. You don't even want to go near. It's like you're either just using your hand or you're using the ass grenade. There's no
or something
between.
lame. The tickler. You're like, why do we have to do this? Like,
but with stuff like with the kind of I don't know what the right word is. Basically, women's sex toys, especially the expensive ones, look so beautiful now, and it's just starting to happen to male sex toys too. Like the kind of stuff like Lilo and like We Vibe stuff, like they're just beautiful, and they don't look kind of cheesy as well. Like you feel like sometimes the thing that puts me off about sex toys is they just look so
designed by men.
Yeah. But like, we'll make this glittery pink because that's a girl thing. Like, it's like, but having them as like a beautiful kind of object is sexy too. Like, you don't want to use something that just looks like a
for sure.
That's why I made a post recently that was like, for me, flesh-colored dildos are a turn-off.
Oh my god, my flesh-colored dildos are the most hilarious thing to me, because on cam, like, they look great. You can angle it so it almost could be like a dick or whatever. And
well, that's the point. It's like,
but they're so hilarious. There's like a color that nobody's skin is that color, and flesh-colored is like, what is flesh color? Like, it's like no. There's like a baby pink, and then like the head is always like neon pink or something. And like black dildos, why are they actually black?
Jet black.
Yeah, jet black. It's like, so it becomes like, I think it's actually like an amazing kind of like hyper reality of like sex toys. It's almost like a totally kind of like smooth, rubbery.
And some of them have their like zombie dicks and like
weird
alien
awesome.
dick toys.
Have you ever heard of Bad Dragon?
Yeah.
I don't want to like diss anyone who's into it, because it's totally cool to be whatever you want to be into.
Yeah, if you want to.
But a lot of the dildos will be they'll be a drawing of like well, it's not a furry. I don't exactly know what to call it because it's not a person in a costume. It's a drawing of like a very sexualized, like buff Doberman.
Yes.
Like a humanized Doberman,
and
then like that's his dick.
Yeah.
Like, and then you get like that guy's dick.
Yeah.
So it's like this weird like.
Oh, so they add characters to the dildos.
But they're very animalized dildos, and like there's like big ones that are supposed to be like dragon dildos, and they all have tubes that can go in them to do cum, to like squirt cum.
Right.
It's astounding. Like, I'm just impressed by it. I'm not into it, but I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Like,
it's fascinating.
Yeah. Those are, look them up, guys.
So have you used any toys at all with masturbating, like fleshlights or stuff like that? Do you have any experience?
Yeah, I've used them plenty in the past, but I've just I don't know, they're not like, I think because you can't manipulate the level of sensation as much. I'm just not crazy about them. I think they don't feel bad, but I would rather just use my hand for the most part.
That makes sense.
But yeah, generally, I mean, my level of masturbation really also is dependent on my work schedule, because I don't jerk off like before I go to work, just because it's helpful not to. And balancing that with sex with my girlfriend, I still masturbate on I would say like very regular basis, but I do so in a way that I actually, especially over the past year, I've gotten a lot of enjoyment out of not always coming. So
like edging.
Yeah, I really like holding that energy in me for a while at times, and even if I'll masturbate for, I don't know, 10 minutes when I wake up in the morning, or like an hour in the afternoon, there's times where I just won't come, and I might do that like multiple times. And I found that to be, I mean, I still love coming, obviously, but it's like,
not for me.
I mean, I still do, like, on a very regular basis, but holding that energy within me without always having an orgasm just completely changes masturbating, and how you are able to push that energy into the rest of your body rather than it kind of like always being about just your cock having this sensation.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've kind of blamed my lack of masturbation on a few things, and one of them definitely being like running ninjas is, I'm looking at sexual images all the time, and so I feel like it kind of desensitizes me, so I'm actually have less of a sex drive than someone who doesn't. But with all of you, or some of us are like involved with sexuality even more, and just still have you've got your sex drive still incredibly strong, it seems.
I think it changes, like for me anyway, like it changes. So some occasionally I have a month where I'm like so horny all the time, and then I'll have a month where I'm like,
Yeah.
But Tumblr has ruined like porn for me. I don't watch porn really anymore. I like endless looping gifs of like fucking just like in close up. It just doesn't do anything for me anymore. Like I said before, I feel like my boundaries of what's pornographic have completely changed. I'm like, just some boobs, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
What's the harm?
Yeah. For me, it just varies on a energy and daily basis of how I'm feeling, I think, because sometimes I will be shooting porn all day and I'll just be tired. I'll go home and I'll want to go to sleep and I'm exhausted. And some days I'll shoot a scene and I'll leave, and like all I'll want to do for like 2 days is just like fuck or masturbate. I just like can't stop. But yeah, it just kind of varies on everything else going on in my life, and depending on how busy I am, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I have to like work the next 3 days, so I can't really like go home, and I just have to like I have to be good and not masturbate tonight.
I'm also really bad at like setting goals, and once I realize like I'm close to something, I like commit to it. So like once I had masturbated for like 6 months, I was like, holy shit, that's like almost a year. Like I wonder if I can go a whole year. And now the year is in like 2 months.
I was gonna say where you're at now. Oh.
Yeah.
It's like
The longest break I can remember from orgasming was probably about 4 years ago, and I think I only went like not even 2 weeks.
See, I have a lot of
and I was
sex.
trekking
Yeah, I
through.
hear
I was
sex
like
most
trekking
days.
through the mountains of Nepal, so it
Okay.
wasn't
So that
like
makes sense.
ideal masturbation scenario.
That's fair, yeah.
I just kind of like was exhausted from hiking all day, and I was like, I'm gonna see if I can not masturbate today. Yeah.
I had like a 9-month period in college where I didn't. That was like my longest one. Like no orgasms at all. So yeah. That was like unintentional though. I was just really depressed. So yeah, I just was like, meh. It's so much work sometimes. But yeah.
So we're talking about Tumblr. Obviously, that's why we're all here, how we all know each other. So I'm really interested in hearing everyone's story about how they found one another. If you guys can remember, like the first, or how you started communicating, stuff like that.
I feel like everyone's okay. So with Vex, it was because of God's Girls, I'm pretty sure, and I didn't even necessarily like. It was kind of the Tumblr thing where like you like follow each other and like each other's stuff, and it's like, ooh, we like each other. Like,
actually like this is so cool.
Yeah, and then we started like I guess messaged a few times about meeting and stuff recently, but that was it was just about like kind of a little like side Tumblr meeting.
I think we all exist in like a similar sphere of influence.
Yeah.
It's like I think everyone knew about everyone else, and then it was like
For Vex, I remember seeing a few photos of you and I think Kif and Blas like floating around for a while, and then Kif started following me and I started following her, and then after a while I messaged her and was like, you know that girl? I was like, does she have a Tumblr? And she's like, oh yeah, it's over here. I was like, oh thanks.
cool. I think you just messaged me saying like, hey, you like it, I don't know if you saw Four Chambers stuff, but you were like, oh, if you're ever in the area, like I'd be really up for doing like some shooting with you and stuff. So it's kind of, that's maybe how I think when it was actually pretty soon after I'd seen your stuff, and I was like, oh my god, like a guy that shoots interesting stuff and that looks kind of really interesting, but it's not interesting even in a porny way. Like it's like I don't know. It's kind of so rare to have guys even naked on the internet, especially naked with their faces out. So it was like,
and
we go like back a while.
Yeah, Cam and I go back like to a whole nother
website,
internet world.
Yeah. But just met yesterday.
Yeah, we just met yesterday for the first time after like 6 or 7 years of knowing each other online.
Yeah. Well, it was like we knew each other and talked on the other site was BM Ezine, if people are familiar with that. It doesn't really, I don't know if it even exists anymore.
I don't know.
But we like met on there and flirted and sent each other pictures and stuff. And then like we didn't for a long time and then refound each other on Tumblr.
Yeah.
In like the last like 2 years or something. A year
like
or two?
3 years, yeah.
Something like that. And it was like, oh, it's you! and stuff, yeah. So now, we're just meeting. And then you were just through Tumblr, obviously. You being Ninja. Sorry. People can't see me pointing.
Tumblr's such a big part of obviously what I do. How do you guys feel has helped like what you do and your enjoyment of it?
I think like for me it's probably just the ability to kind of share not safe for work stuff. Like I don't really ever really post like anything super pornographic of myself on Tumblr, but having the freedom to realize you can kind of post things in a visual medium that you can make your blog look exactly how you want it, and it's with no fear of it being kind of taken down is, well, occasionally stuff just randomly disappears off there for no particular reason, but
because it violates like
just
you're
like
what?
Yeah, it's so weird. I'll go back into my archive and there'll just be like one random picture will be deleted. I'm like, why did you pick that one? Like I obviously don't know what it was, but it can't be much worse than any of the other things.
I have one photo too. I know what it is, but it's like there's so much other photos that are exactly the same.
Yeah, it's weird. I guess, like, Vex, do you do much communicating with your followers through Tumblr, or is it mainly camming? You talk with those people, and Tumblr's more of just.
I find it actually really difficult to be very personal on the internet. Like, I have friends that get really into like some of their kind of emotional stuff, and they tend to seem to have like more kind of interaction with people, because I think if you share something, it makes people feel like they have a certain amount of information about you that they didn't before, and sometimes people get quite entitled about feeling like they know somebody and kind of being kind of quite presumptuous or invasive or something. But for me, it's never sat very comfortably with me. I think I've always been worried about maybe like appearing like an idiot or something, or saying something that is going to be recorded forever in the bowels of the internet. So I tend to take a little bit of a step back from it. Like I don't. I'm rubbish at answering my Tumblr messages and stuff like that. But I've like met. It's been amazing in terms of like meeting people or having people kind of get in touch. But I would say that about most social media. Like I use a lot of different social media kind of things, and they're all a really important part of my life as well as my professional life. Like I've always grown up with interacting, like you said, you guys met on BM Easy. I was on Vampire Freaks.
Oh my god, me too. It's okay.
We probably all knew each other.
Name. I was like 14 and being like, ugh.
Did you have a good username? I want to know your username.
It was like Napalm Glamour or something.
You know what the Vampire Freaks like username generator was? Like you take something cute and you add something gross. So it'd be like Dolly Slut or like Trash Kitten or something like that. So mine was a classic, which was Malice in Wonderland.
Oh, that's a good one.
But there's actually somebody that I now still know on Tumblr who was like one of my little peers in my Vampire Freaks group. So I think for me, like I think I'm the first generation that grew up completely with the internet. So by the time I was 12, I was talking to people on like Habbo Hotel and
My Coke. Did anyone do My Coke? It was exactly like Habbo Hotel, and you'd like go into like little rooms and like totally cyber with people and stupid shit like that.
And it's like obviously a 40-year-old guy or an equally young like
person pretending to be
older.
Yeah.
16.
That was exactly it. I was like 12 being like 16 female from like wherever.
So for me, it sort of like slips so easily into my day-to-day life and it always kind of has been a part of it, so it doesn't sort of feel like, oh, I have to go and do internet stuff. It's just easy to communicate with people that way. But that's a big part of why people are having like more of a kind of discussion about sex. And people, I mean, obviously Tumblr is a hotbed for like some pretty what people would consider to be kind of like maybe extreme sexual stuff, but it's great because it creates communities where people can kind of communicate and interact about that sort of stuff rather than just presenting it as a faceless thing. It becomes something that has the potential to be
understood by people who can relate to you, I think.
You're like a Tumblr agony answer. Like if people come to you for advice so often.
I feel like I got in the habit of just answering more questions that I could publicly because I would get repetitive questions so much that I was hoping that the more obvious, the more public I would post things that might help keep from getting the same question.
It doesn't.
Over and over and over.
You're like, just scroll back one page.
Yeah, but I mean, I started my Tumblr just with the intent of posting photos of kind of documenting either projects or little things that I would work on with friends, or just random photos that I would take of myself. And once I started performing in porn and kind of including a bit of my like work life on there, then it kind of just exploded into something way bigger than it really ever was before. And now it's kind of a funny mix of like partially just my personal life mixed with all of my work-related photos, and that kind of just brings everybody to ask a bunch of, like, the majority of questions I get are all sex-related, which is fine, but I've kind of always used it in a sense that I just answer, kind of talk about the topics that are brought to me rather than talking about whatever's on my mind. In a way, I pretty much strictly only post photos.
And Ken, you do some advice on your blog as well, don't you?
Sometimes. The most questions I ever get are people asking me, like, and this is one I actually honestly don't answer anymore, or people asking me how to get a dom.
Right.
And, like, I have no instruction for people on that, because, like, I don't think you should go, like, hunting for one, because that's not...
Unless it's a professional dom.
Yeah, of course. If it's like a higher dom situation and they're professional, then they know what they're doing. But that's how I feel like people get into abusive relationships.
Absolutely.
Going to try to search for a dom and make someone into like something they aren't.
There's like a weird culture of Tumblr doms as well. Like, that is not, again, like not a healthy kind of way to...
Where they think like, dom means like I control you and whatever and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the case. But I guess I also get questions about just like how to, like, I want to do this, but my boyfriend isn't into it. How do I get him to be into it? And that's just the same as we were saying before, where it's like, well, talk about it, like, like we'll discuss it. And if he's really not comfortable with it, then he's not comfortable with it. And like, I don't know. I don't do like a ton of it because I don't know what to say to people sometimes. Yeah. Besides like communicate with each other. I don't know.
It's pretty much the best advice.
Yeah. But for some people that's not a viable option, which is then like, well, maybe you shouldn't be together. Like,
it sounds like a healthy relationship.
That's what you have to tell people.
I think it's an important thing to say, and it took me a while to kind of...
I was going to say, you aren't scared to say that anymore, but I still feel like, I'm like,
because I think some people just kind of need that, like, confirming opinion. Like, I'm in this situation, like, is this not okay? And you have to be like,
it's not okay.
Like, you can move on. There's so many people in the world. Like, do not settle for an unhappy relationship.
Or just tell them, like, maybe you should consider that you'd be happier with somebody else.
Or maybe you'd be happier being alone. If you need to take time for yourself.
I feel like people are rarely single in this, like, day and age. Like, people are always clamoring for someone else to be with and stuff.
Well, I haven't ever, in my adult life, ever been single, so I find, like, I think it's one of those things where it's, like, very difficult for me to process, like, how I would be. Like, so much a part of my life is relationship, so I can totally understand how people would find it kind of difficult, but I think it's important. I think, again, like we were saying, I think as a society it's kind of dictated that, like, you're kind of unfulfilled as a person unless you found the one.
The other half.
Yeah.
Or at least someone.
Which is like bullshit, and actually,
what if friends are someone?
Yeah,
Like, that's
and,
how
like,
I feel.
friends
Like,
and
what if that
relationships,
fulfills
you
it
know,
for
like-
you? Yeah. We don't need to have like,
and like, I think what's been kind of great about Tumblr stuff is like communities of people, like asexual communities, you know, where you can go, it's actually okay to not want to have sex as well. That's totally valid, just because you're surrounded by a society that
so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
like it's okay to feel detached from that too, and that's a normal feeling, and there are other people like you and you can talk to them and
Yeah.
be their friend. That's
I think
cool.
Tumblr has been really great for that. It's kind of confirming for some people, like, oh, I'm into this, and I don't really, my friends are into it, or I can't talk to them about it, and then they can go on Tumblr and see all these people who have the same kind of desires.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's about validating.
Yeah. One last thing. While I was away in Costa Rica, the three of you helped me out with Submission Sunday, and I got to thank you online, but never got to say thanks in person. So thank you so much for helping out. And I'm just really curious of how you found that experience of being on the other end of the blog.
Overwhelmed.
Well, it was just
I was gonna say
red everywhere. Like
It's
you
just
have to
crazy.
see this, like,
and like so many people like want to be published and stuff, but you can't do everyone, so you have that like guilty feeling, kind of being like, I'm sorry, like I don't know. That was my
write
problem.
like
with
a
it.
really sweet caption with a photo that you're like,
It's terrible. Yeah.
it's just not right, and it must be a lot of pressure to deal with somebody else's
That's
work.
I don't know how you do it every week. That's all I thought when I was sitting there at the couch.
Yeah.
I don't know how many I did. I probably posted like, I don't know, 10 to 15 submissions or something, and did write-ups or whatever. And I sat at the couch for like hours doing that, and I was like, how the hell do they do this? Like,
I think somebody sent you some criticism being like, oh, I can't believe you don't, like, there's so many spelling mistakes in your, and I was like, well, you try and do it then, like, the amount of time,
Keep up with, with
Yeah.
that level.
and if you can understand what somebody means, don't
Yeah,
pull someone's grammar up. It's such a
it
dickhead
is.
thing to
I
do.
know.
It's
I've
like,
definitely tried to improve it, and I do more editing, but it's true. Like, I just try to get them out as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So if I dedicate, 5 to 7 minutes to looking, reading, figuring out what to do, I don't always have the time to go and reread. And plus, when you write something, you can't even see your errors because your eyes like just
Scroll
read
through
through
it,
it.
yeah.
I don't even know how you come up with a write-up for everything, because I had trouble being like, what do I
definitely
say?
the week that was the scar theme, because I feel like it's such a sensitive subject for so many people.
Oh, you probably got some rough things.
It was just I mean, naturally I feel pretty patient in replying to things, but I felt like it was especially important to kind of validate people's feelings and make them feel understood and that they had other people out there to relate to. So it was a lot of emotion.
process.
There's just a lot of emotion to can digest throughout, because people really put their heart into it, and you want to be able to match them on the same level with it's hard sometimes.
Yeah, the scar theme, the first time I did it, it was just like, I didn't even, like, I was shocked. I didn't really even know about, like, self-inflicted scars, that it was, like, a huge thing. I had no idea. I had no one in my life had ever been a part of that, so it just blew my mind. Because I had, like, scars for me were like, oh, I have these weird scars on my back, and, like, I kind of feel insecure about them, and kind of thought it would be stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I was just, like, blown away at the response that I got, and like it was the first time I was like really heavy in my heart, being like, holy crap, like what am I even getting into?
Like dealing with people's really kind of like visceral, difficult emotions, as well as like just sexy pictures.
But like I guess the good thing to come out of it is people see that there's an end to it, and you can be trapped in a cycle, or you can be trapped in a feeling, but you get over it and you can move forward, and it can be in the past. Or
it can be in the present and you can still be a valid person for experiencing those feelings as well, which is kind of nice.
Correct. Sweet. Yeah, that's the main things I want to talk about. Thanks for being here.
Glad to meet everyone.
We're having a group hug you just can't see.
We did that earlier. So.
A big naked group hug.
And thanks everyone for listening. And this concludes episode 3 of the Nympho Ninjas podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you made it all the way through the end, I really appreciate it. I'll do my best to make episode 4 within a less gap between episodes 2 and 3. Waiting a year in between is way too long. I'll do my best, to find somebody and work harder on this. So if you have any suggestions for ninjas you'd like me to interview, for people involved in porn, and camming, and photography and modeling, anything that we talk about and deal with on Info Ninjas, please let me know. Or if you are someone that you think you would be a great guest on the show and you'll be coming to Toronto, please let me know. Again, I am Toronto-based, so I'm a bit limited with who I can talk to, and I want to keep it with face-to-face interviews. I know doing things over Skype would really broaden the people I could talk to, but I feel like it's not the same. It's not the same vibe. It's really great to get to sit down and spend time and kind of get to know the people that you're talking to. And that's why this episode was so special, spending that time doing the photo shoot with Cam, Vex, and Owen. It was really one of the best times of my life. It was just really special, a really unique environment that I've never been in, just people being comfortable, naked together, and just for the fun of it, just for the beauty of it. I'll definitely never forget it, and I'm so happy that we had the cameras there to take the photos that we did, and I know the response from them has been great too. So again, just to reiterate, we've got 15% off our new app, nymphoninjas.findroad.com, coupon code episode 3, episode 3. Get the app, you'll get some exclusive photos you will not find on Tumblr. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up in Ninjas, potentially a new video distribution deal, which I'm very excited about. I'm not going to say too much about it, but basically we might have our videos featured with a lot of really great content, and you won't just have to buy one at a time anymore. It'll be a flat fee. You'll get everything and more. We're in the final stages of figuring that out, so hopefully I'll have a big announcement for you soon regarding that. And we're hoping to get some new merch as well, new t-shirts, new bracelets, new stuff. We love you guys for supporting us. I really can't express how much it means to me. I love seeing pictures of ninjas wearing their shirts, showing off their bracelets, showing their ninja knickers, where you're putting your stickers. All that stuff just warms my heart so much and really motivates us to work on this every day and share the sex positivity that we do, and find the photos that you all want to see. So thank you again for listening. Thank you for following. Thank you for supporting. I'm incredibly grateful, and hopefully, we'll have episode 4 for you soon, possibly. Thanks again, and goodbye.